And we are live here today. I'm Peter Karloftis, Three Rooms Press. We are here today with Standalone, the Dickie Cornish mystery, the second one by Christopher Chambers, who is also here. And we will also bring on Gary Phillips in a little while to talk with Chris about the book and mysteries and crime and all of that sort of thing. So we're going to have a fun little get together tonight here, coming to your computer screen. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube. You can go to either and watch us do our thing. So for now, I am going to bring up Christopher Chambers, the author of Standalone. There it is. And let's get going here. Where is he? Look up. He's not coming on. Add to stream. Here we go. I finally got it. I got the hang of it, but I can still switch this around. Isn't that fun? Right. I just like doing that right away. Now we're going to keep you like this. Keep me on this side. You're in the power position. You're the upstage. You can upstage me now. And let's talk about Standalone, which just came out in October, the end of October. It's early November. It's still a newbie. And it stars Dickie Cornish. And this is Christopher Chambers, who is the author. He's a mystery writer. He's a Georgetown professor. He works with conflict resolution. You do it all, Chris. You're a Princeton graduate. What else can I say?
It's tough being a Renaissance man, let me tell you.
He is a Renaissance
man. 4-hour deal.
All right. So tell me a little bit about what got you going with this homeless Dickie Cornish, trying to put his life together and becoming a detective on the streets of your city, Washington, D.C.
Well, the first one ended. He wanted, he's there now, not on the street anymore, but, back into society. And there's a whole bunch of pressures there. I mean, he's got to go to the VA. He's got to take his meds. He's got to, maintain a home. And he's got to maintain something that's going to support him. And the only thing that he's found that he feels he's good at now is this gumshoeing, which he was forced into without, giving too much away from Scavenger.
Sure.
Yeah, by unscrupulous people who needed someone to, ferret out the local rat holes, basically, and being a homeless guy, being on smoking K2, being on booze, living on a steam grate. But they did their homework as to what he really was and who he really was, and they plucked him off the street, and now this is his vocation,
his domain.
And now we find him now again. This is a year goes by. All he's doing is basically doing kind of goon work, as a bouncer, as a troubleshooter. I mean, not really a PI, not really what he wanted to do. He's got his sidekick, Stripe, who was homeless and was, cleaning out people's apartments with him.
Right.
And he has to keep him employed. He's got to keep him occupied. He's supporting him getting his GED. He doesn't want to see him deported. And this is where we find them, and kaboom, there's COVID.
Right.
And now he sees scores of his former friends, people on the street, are dead from this. I mean, and he's barely getting by during the scourge. And, that's where the book Standalone comes in, where he is now trying to make a living as a PI, as we're coming out of this scourge. But the community, the poor people he's around, are not recovering from this. Many people are dead. Many people are still sick. And, he is basically almost found himself, one could say, in a worse situation than he was when he was on the street, because now he's got to make a living. Now he's got to keep a roof over his head in his little, 1-bedroom apartment that's subsidized by the city. And, the gentrification, even though it's slowed a little from the COVID, is now picking up because a lot of people are dead and a lot of properties are open. And it's an even bigger opportunity for scavengers and carpetbaggers and stuff to swoop in, and he's dealing with that in the very building that he's living in, over a small Salvadoran cantina that's barely getting by. And the positive thing is that he is going to the VA, he is taking his meds, and people will be happy to know that most of this book is now written in first person, not second person, which was our which was the challenge.
Right.
That a lot of people really, actually found exciting. That was the experiment of the first book, because he was homeless, he was hearing things, he was on the street.
Dad was
Um,
in his head.
well, I
Dad
was
was
in
kind
his
of in
head, and
his head.
now it's mostly 99% is written in first person, unless he does stress out, unless he does fall down. Then that voice, then that the dad that abused him is back in his head whenever he does kind of fall flat. But I love, actually, the second person was just, it was a strain to write, but it was really stretched me out and challenged me as a writer, and I love that. But I also love going into first person, because now I can really show you what his personality is like. He's not
Right.
reacting to an invisible character. Now he has agency, and now you see the struggle that he really does have to go through, and that is what makes it makes it a fun book to read and a fun book to write.
Yes, Standalone. I agree. I love publishing it as well as reading it and editing with you as you wrote it. So yes, I'm a big fan. What about the streets where you live, and how much of a not inspiration, but how much did you see there that inspired you to want to bring this world to life? Because there's something in there to humble anyone, to you gotta understand the streets. You can't just close your eyes to it. You can't just flee to the suburbs. You can't give up what your city means to you. You have to hold on to something, and as you say, Dickie becomes, he's got something to hold on to now. But you personally is what I'm asking. How did
Well,
this affect
I
you?
well, it makes me a better observer and a more empathetic person.
Yeah.
You have to be an empathetic person to winnow out these stories. I mean, I had to do that with Scavenger, because there were people on the street that I'd see every day, literally, and I don't mean like commuting in my job. I mean literally right out here. I live in the city.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Sitting by my grocery store,
Right.
and you had an opportunity to talk to these folks and try to understand, and they have their own religion and hierarchy, and good and evil, and their own set of laws, that they try to survive by. And that just extended into writing this, because now I was trying to see the struggle of how people like that try to maintain functionality, and
Yes.
once they maintain functionality, then they start to stand up and say, now I matter in this world. But when you start to,
Absolutely.
but
The
when
the
you, but
the,
in
the
this
lack of
environment,
dignity is
exactly, they start, the flip side, though, of exerting your dignity, is that now it's whack-a-mole. When you were on the lower end of the spectrum, or below the totem pole, nobody cared. But as you start to rise, people start to notice you. The police start to notice you. Your neighbors, who, you know, never noticed you before and can kind of perceive you as a danger, start to notice you. And then the whack-a-mole starts. So how do you avoid the whack-a-mole but keep your dignity? And that was always, something that I wanted to talk to people and see what that was like. And and again, there everybody's got their own story, and not everybody out there is a fallen saint
no.
that needs to get up again. Some of them are fallen angels and are down there in pandemonium, and are damn well want to stay there. And
Hmm.
some of them are fallen angels, or fallen people and fallen saints, and want to rise up. And so there's a war there too. I mean, I don't want to get too religious, but
No,
it,
no.
they're human beings, and human beings are so different. And I wanted to really parse that, and show that. I mean, and show that difference and even that duality, because a major theme of this book that was not in the first book, I mean, are the police. The police were a
The police. That's what I
non-entity.
was going to say.
Yeah, the
The
cops were a
police are
non-entity in the
a
first book.
main part of this.
Yeah,
There's two factions that are the lesser of two evils and the evil. You know, what I mean,
right. Yeah,
even if
well,
there is a lesser, they're just both evil. And I guess wherever you want, wherever you're
or
coming
however you
from,
want to
it's
define evil is there. And I think that I wanted to show Dickie's evolution, because the cops in the first one were a non-factor, and that's very realistic. That's verisimilitude, because for the
Mhm.
people that he was living with, working with in the shelter or out on the street, the cops are a non-factor. As he
Yes,
starts to assert himself, and he's now on the streets doing things, he's now noticed. So now they are a factor, and the duality there. I mean, I wanted to explore that. Peter was, you know, what you have a war going on in the police department, like you have a war going on in this country, politically,
yes,
with the soul of this country. Is one necessarily better than the other? And that's what I was trying to show. I mean, that they might both be evil. One might be slightly better than the other, but not really.
no,
And
no,
it's all about power, and it's all about perception, and all about not treating humans as humans. And that's what the commonality between these two factions of the police department are. You just
right.
see, you just have a closer view of one of them, because one of those factions, and I'm not giving anything away here. It's just the
Well, I
plot.
want you to read
Well, one of
something.
those factions basically co-opts him and adopts him and wants to turn him into their own personal,
Yeah.
weapon, if you will.
Of course, yes.
Because they
That's
are,
what they.
they are in this war with the other faction, and they figure somebody like him, because they are privy to his background, is going to be very, very good
Useful.
as
Yeah.
an ally, as a spy, as a weapon, as somebody doing dirty work,
Useful.
useful
Yeah.
for a
So why
change.
don't you read? Why don't you read your little sections here, and then we'll bring Gary up and let you two explore uh,
Well,
some of
here's
those themes.
sure. Here is a little part where he is now in the layer of one faction of the police department, represented by the female chief of police.
Okay. Well, you take it away. I'm going to go off. I'll be back when you're
So
done.
he's in her office now. See that man in the picture with President George H.W. Bush? That's my dad. When things got real bad, that was before we moved here from Detroit, I'd ask him if he was okay, and he'd swear, yes, we're fine. Then he'd take off for the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in his gear and his rifle, yet all he'd hunt was the whiskey bottles he'd drain. Serve me well, because I'll always know when you're lying. I grow as dumb a sling blade face as possible. Can I go now? We aren't done. Yeah, top secret and shit. Don't be facetious. You have to promise no nosing around the colonial view stuff. Pardon? Dickie, we are barely a foot apart, so no need to read my lips. The colonial view's demise is a mess, endemic and emblematic. I won't have you distracted by it, okay? I won't have it affect our friendship. Friendship? Yeah, it's gotten extra. Now I see the lines in her face, cutting right through the Maybelline paint and powder that gave her what I thought was a suntan. There's some stuff about the colonial view and the cops you should know about. I'm keeping Jarhead Jake's florid face in my mind's eye with his pencil dick inside a minor. Go on. I'm a pussy. No. Never mind. Never mind. Look, we have to be frank for our little arrangement to work, Dickie, for you to be my eyes and ears, all right, hon? I pivot. Those people, they were begging me. Al Mayadeen's last wish was to help him, help their children. She's peering right through me with those sapphire marbles. You think they care about their children, she offers, a little rim of fire in the blue eyes. Aaliyah Hannigan. Her mother owed a debt to a Benning Road crew boy, Scumbag. Scumbag calls him the collateral. We see phone video from Mooks in the colonial view of him collecting little Aaliyah 9 years old, from mom, carrying her down a hall to strangle her while he penetrated her. His first trial ended in a hung jury. Can you believe that? Mom's too. Well, we fixed that fast. Fixed? Again, not here, not now. I don't need this. I've seen horrible shit, bad people, but I've seen good people rise above that, Chief. Oh, really? Graciela Gomez, age 3, boiled alive in a Colonial View bathtub 10 months ago by her aunt and uncle. When they weren't torturing her, starving her, yet collecting EBT and TANF benefits, they kept her in a closet. Last check, we still had 5 open child endangerment and abuse folders out of that place alone. And those are the ones referred from Child and Family Services. Unreported, who knows? So that means a bunch of kids unaccounted for. You're missing the point, she huffs, garlic from her salad still on her breath. There's no QAnon pervy party. It's all garden variety inhumanity. There, the cops are coming for me now. Let me wait for them to go by. There's no QAnon pervy party. It's all garden variety inhumanity the average cop sees each day. So what happened to Graciela's parents? Why was she with the perverts? Iced attention, she says. I see something hard and mean form in her eyes. Aunt and uncle had papers. Mom and dad didn't. That's how it went. That's how it goes. You saying the world sucks. Yeah. You saying you can't do shit about it or you won't. So that's, his interchange with the chief of police in her office, somebody he's just met, and he doesn't know what he's doing there. So the chasm is about to reopen on him, and he's about to be dropped in.
Right. And you can get this book right here. Look down in the bottom there, and that little ticker, Standalone, is available through Three Rooms Press at threeroomspress.com shop. So
it's everywhere. You don't have to get it from Bezos. You can go to the indie bookstore. You can get it
anywhere. IndieBound. We probably have some links up on the comments if you're watching. You'll be able to see them there. And why don't we bring up Gary? And can we bring up Gary now? Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, I want to see Gary. So there he is, Gary.
Gentlemen.
Gary Phillips, the inimitable, as
they always say. Yeah, you bet.
He is the unvarnished. He's going to be. So Gary and Chris and I have done. Gary did Crime Plus Music first with Jim Fusilli, and then we did Obama Inheritance together. Chris had a story in.
That's right.
We did Faking Other President. Chris had a story in.
Yep.
And you had a story in. And then Chris has now done 2 Dickie Cornish. And soon to be in the fall of 2023, we will have the unvarnished Gary Phillips, a Mondo Pulp collection.
Yeah, so, collection of my there you go.
We're gonna kick some ass later in the next year too.
That's it.
But meanwhile, we're
back with Standalone.
Yeah. But we're talking Standalone though. But Standalone's right down here in the bottom.
That's it, baby. That's right.
I can put some more. I can put some more stuff up here.
I did see it was great. I think I just saw bookshop.org.
Bookshop.org. And right here is Gary's blurb for the book. Where is it? Here we go.
There it is.
Again, Chris Chambers. Read it, Gary.
Once again, Chris Chambers weaves a mesmerizing and timely tale of twists and deceit with his most unique street-level gumshoe, Dickie Cornish, which is absolutely accurate for once in one of my blurbs. I can't believe it.
You came through finally, huh?
Yeah, came through finally. That's right. After letting so many people down.
I'm going to turn this little banner off for now. And which one is it? This one. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
So why don't you two guys take it over on East Coast, West Coast, whatever. You got crime. You guys have been writing crime fiction as long as there's been crime. Maybe.
There you go.
But
it seems like
Gary's out in L.A. He's very kind to join us at this early hour.
And, early hour for me, not for you guys.
Chris is down in D.C. and I'm in New York. So
I
we've
had my
got a
second
nice
pizza
triumvirate
already.
here.
Right,
We've got
right.
it's not the real old triangle, but it's a good one now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna back out for a while and put you two guys on. So enjoy, and the audience, please enjoy. Gary Phillips with Chris Chambers and Standalone.
So yeah, actually, I want to pick up, Chris, where you had talked about this, and it's actually obviously reflected in the piece you just read. And I was thinking about this. And I was thinking about it from from the first Dickie Cornish outing to now. And as you yourself pointed out, here he starts, or here he begins as this street denizen. Uh, wrestling with these self-induced and other kinds of demons. But he works he works so good as a detective partly because he is invisible, partly because nobody will pay attention to him, and he can see and observe and learn things. And of course, he's very bright, but people don't think that he's bright. But he learns things and he puts things together. And as you said, now that he's on his meds. And now that he has finds himself unwillingly, right, caught up in these two factions of law and order, he's more on the radar. So I guess the question I have for you then is, what do you think about that evolution of that? I mean, how does Dickie navigate that kind of terrain?
Well, I mean, it's a natural evolution. I mean, he was going, he was at the end of the first novel. I mean, he was either going to go back to the street again or in the shelter, or he was going to try to aspire to something else. And I think there was something in him where the femme fatale of the first one was deported to Mexico.
Right.
He didn't have to worry about that. All he has to worry about from the first one is this kid, and I won't go into that. You can buy Scavenger and read about that.
That's it.
You make sure that this kid that he was looking for and protecting was okay. This baby, who's now a toddler, and now he's so it was only natural that he would try to make a go of this. It's like I don't want to be trite and say it's like lemonade from lemons, but it was either go back to the street or what. I mean, what other job was he going to get? And he figured this would help resurrect a past that he destroyed. I mean, this was the guy who was a scholar and an athlete at Howard University, and then met the wrong girl and got turned out and got turned and started, with germ sticks and went up to the heroin but he's starting to realize that he has not only this inherent toughness, but something about his past that kept him alive. I mean, this guy is about 40 something, almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
He's been on the street for about 20 years.
Yes.
Something has kept him alive. And with all 10 fingers and toes. And so he wants to try to say, well, that's something I can use.
Yeah.
The problem is that now he's in the reality of this economy. He's among poor people in a poor people's city beneath all the gleaming monuments and the gentrification. And now he's got to make a go of it like all of these other people. And you see the first scene of the book, first chapter of the book, first scene, he's trying to buy an unbricked iPhone from some street dealers on Art Avenue, which is probably going on in the rain right now, right down the street from here, because he needs that for his business, for his detective business. But he can only do that among the other street denizens who he knows. And he's got, what other jobs is he getting? I mean, he's getting jobs as a goon for this person, as a bodyguard for this person, investigating some clown who owns a hardware store, who might be cheating on his wife, that kind of stuff. He's not making enough money to make ends meet and to feed himself without city, state, or city aid. And even then, he's still eating the stuff he kind of ate. I wasn't trying to be funny in the first chapter, where he's making basically a prison pizza out of ground up ramen noodles. maybe he's used to that, and that's the
Yeah.
only thing he can afford.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
going to CVS and buying, you know, rancid relish to put on top of this thing and
Good.
make it microwave.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he hasn't. He's aspiring, but the world is pushing him back, and this is a world where, like I said, scores of his friends from the street are now dead from COVID, and
Yeah.
so and there's turmoil in the upper echelons of the city. This book takes place around the time Trump was out and
Mhm.
Biden was in. The January 6th was basically only a few months, happened only a few months prior.
Yeah.
We're in summer, a
Right.
very hot summer, and so he's looking at all that above him, but that's really kind of he's afraid to, because the last time he looked above, he got plucked off the street, and now and by these rich people, and now so he's almost in a bind that's worse than being on the street, because if you're high on K2 and Mickey's on a steam grate, that might be all you need,
that might be all you need. Yes, right.
as opposed to the real world.
Yeah, and right, and now as you pointed out, and actually as you've done in this book, he's on his meds. He is telling now in a more traditional kind of format. He is telling us the story in first person, though, as you do, when he's under stress, it slips from I to you. It slips from right, right, and
it does.
Yeah,
it does, because he's not, and I have to, all them fellas in Private Eye Writers of America, Randisi and those guys. Look, just go back to the first person. Stop the experiment. Like, Usher Khan, Reed Farrell Coleman was like, look, man, just go back to the tried and true.
Right.
Don't tell me twice. So that's what I did.
No, but really it does it. But honestly, it really works well, I think, because as you point out, that the point is when he's pressed, man. I mean, yes, clearly, yes, there is something that slips in his mind, and I think that's just it's a wonderful aspect of his character, that here's this guy who, as we've said, is trying to, in a certain way, climb back into quote unquote normal society, whatever the heck that means, right? I got to get a phone because I'm gonna be a PI. People got to be able to reach me. I got to have a place to lay my head. You know what I mean? Presumably, I got to start eating right at some point.
Right.
But you're right that these are such tenuous, almost transitory things, right? That and for any one of us, that it could slip away. So I guess I was thinking in a lot of ways, because Dickie does move among the homeless, because he was part of that, and he might be again. Is DC? I kind of like LA. Is DC more than just DC? I assume is more than just the rich, more than the have and the have-nots. I assume that there are different levels of that city.
Yeah, there are. I mean, a lot of people don't think so, but it's true. I mean, and his circles as an African American. I mean, he was from, his father was in the Marines, his mother was a teacher. I mean, his father was based all over the world, and then at the Marine headquarters barracks there,
right,
8th and E Street. I mean, and he was among people who were considered working class or middle class, or even upper class. I mean, he went to a Catholic school, a Catholic high school. Was an athlete there. That school loosely based on two big Catholic schools here. I won't name them. and even his friend Croc, whose parents were drug dealers, and he became a drug dealer. I mean, they sent their son to the same private Catholic school. But it's not just rich and poor. And here I wanted to show that in the first novel it was rich and poor. In the second novel, it's a lot more nuanced. There's a whole lot of different levels of African Americans, of minorities, of Latinos.
Yes.
The Stripe is still his sidekick.
Right.
And of white people. I mean, you don't see the uber rich at work here. You see kind of the perfidy of some public servants.
Yes.
Of some people drawing a government check who can be just as evil. And I'm not even talking about the cops.
Yeah.
As bureaucrats, can be just as evil as the richest, stereotypical rich guy.
Right.
And all this is going on, again, under these gleaming monuments that we think are so beautiful and pristine.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to take a step back for a second or two, and let's talk about it. Maybe we've talked about this before, but I think it'll be good to kind of get into it a little bit for our audience, which is to say, for you, what was the genesis to arrive at Dickie Cornish? I mean, all the different ways that all of us try to think about how to come to a detective novel, how to come to a mystery novel through whatever kind of protagonist or anti-hero we might create. What for you then was the stuff, the sauce, those ingredients that you pulled together or were inspired by to create Dickie Cornish?
I have to say, there's a lot of different elements and influences and idols. I mean, you and Gar Anthony Haywood being among them, but and Walter too, Walter Mosley too. But I looked at you guys, and I look at Walter as idols, but I look at George Pelecanos as a mentor. And George's thing is that you take your influences from all kinds of places, and you look at what he did. He took "We Own the Streets" directly from the influence there of The Wire, and The Wire was the influence of David Simon's stuff, and even David Simon's stuff was influenced by that hard-edged movie that David Mamet directed with William H. Macy.
Yeah,
I forgot what it was called. I think it was Homicide.
Yes, yeah.
And then you had Homicide on NBC,
right?
Which is an amazing show, and never got the I used to watch it religiously, but it never got the accolades that NYPD Blue did, because NYPD Blue was a police soap opera with
right.
And that's when I learned that soap operas and that kind of stuff, that's what sells. But if you want to be remembered, you try to do some higher art. I know that sounds, really stuffy and self, but it's true. So when I took all those influences, and then I took what, the mentorship of Pelecanos is basically, and his point was, he's right. The stuff he was writing about almost got gentrified out of existence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, so where can you really parse what's going on with humanity at a truly basic level? I had to go through the basement.
Yeah.
And the only place I could go was with homeless people.
Gotcha.
And homeless addicts at that.
Right.
And these people who are making their living, cleaning out the detritus of people's lives. I mean, in the first book, Dickie and Stripe were on these squads where the landlords would kick people out on the street, and they would go in and clean out the apartments and then take people's lives that was dumped on the curb and take them to the dump, and they get like $10 a day for that. In a quote first world country, people getting put out on the street, and then the people who are cleaning it up are homeless and getting $10 a day.
Exactly.
And that is what and so when you mix all that together, I mean, he was, I took his direction and just ran with it, and it was easy to talk to people around here. There were no shortage of homeless people and or addicts.
Yeah.
Whenever I walked my dog, I mean, the only problem was I had a 94-pound German Shepherd, so I had to assure them that he wasn't going to do anything.
Right.
You could best goddamn believe that whenever I talked to them, he was with me. Okay, so I mean, I'm not saying I was totally like, hey, I'm doing research on a new crime novel. Can I talk to you?
You got to talk to you for a minute.
Trying to be a little soft and hard at the same time.
Right.
but that's how it came about.
Yeah. So I'm always. I mean, listen. I just think that Dickie is such a lovely, wonderful, original character. It's such a great way to get us into, the crime fiction terrain. And I guess then the question, and not to put you on the spot about what's the future for Dickie, but as you've pointed out in this novel, there's a kind of arc that Dickie is on, and so do you feel that there's going to be another natural sort of climb in the third outing or further outings, or will he slip back? And it could be a combination of both those factors.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility he could slip back. There's a possibility within the circles that he runs, anybody could slip back. There's a possibility everybody says, you're only 1 or 2 paychecks away from the homeless shelter anyway. Right. So he's not a young man.
Yes.
And you're talking about years of abuse on his body. Something could happen. Now at the this novel, another character from the first one returns.
Yeah.
And so you're not seeing equilibrium. You're seeing a threat, or what is this person doing here? I mean, even at the height of that he never thought he'd be at this height. I mean, he's almost vanquished the evil people, and people are being indicted in federal court. People are dead that deserve to be dead.
Yeah.
He has his license. He has his PI license now. He has it legitimately now.
Right.
And then boom, this person right at the last page of the book comes right back in the federal courthouse where he's there testifying. She's coming in the other door. Yeah. And so, there's a possibility he could slip back. But I'm not going to, what I'm not going to do is turn this into a typical DC novel where we are talking about chicanery and murder and power. I mean, that's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Always going to be a possibility. I mean, and it's fertile ground as context.
Yes.
And affecting him on his level, but it's not going to be the it might be a good MacGuffin.
Yeah.
It's not going to
exactly.
be the push and shove of the novel by any means.
Right.
I'm keeping it on this level. I'm keeping it
Gotcha.
real.
Right. There you go, baby. That's it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about process, because I think I seem to have read this actually recently about you, that so you consider yourself a pantser as opposed to somebody who assiduously outlines?
Yeah. I was talking with Tracy Clark, who's
that's what it was. That's right.
Novelist.
Right.
And she and I are pantsers, and we're always having to defend ourselves. Outliners, and it's always tough, but a pantser is more like a sculptor.
Yes.
You have a piece of clay and you start monkeying with it.
Right.
And you trim here, you add here, you go away with it and you say, fuck it, I'm not gonna do it anymore. And then you come back and there's always one of those moments, like she and I have discussed, like if you remember Richard Dreyfuss and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when he was trying to make the Devil's Tower,
right?
And he went crazy, and then he pulled the top of it off, and so it had a flat top, and he was like, "Aha!" And that's when you get to that moment. And I think the reason we are like that, and I think the reason we have these kind of weird, kind of intrafamilial fights with the outliners is that I think that our creed is more about character.
Yeah.
I mean, but we still write in a genre where there is a strong formula to put something in to jump the audience, to fool them. Whether it's a MacGuffin carrying suspense or it's all of these clues that lead to this red herring, and then the real killer pops out and stabs you in the back. Yeah, the plot elements, in our genre are very, very important. And I think that as a pantser, what that does is it kind of opens you up to, not the criticism, but the observation that, okay, well, you care more about the characters and their interaction than the actual plot. And my response to that is, that's real life.
Yeah.
People remember people. They don't remember, all the intricacies and the bullshit. I mean, yes, that's entertaining, and yes, that turns pages, and yes, you get that. Oh, so that was what that meant.
Right.
But in the end, once you put the book down, and you're talking about masters that can marry both of those things.
Yeah.
I'm not so arrogant to say that I can do that. I do what I do well, and that's character. I don't try to monkey around with crazy plots. I just put people in crazy situations and then let them roll. And that's what I do well. I don't do crazy plots well and plot twists and that kind of stuff. I just do what I do, and that's what that's what
listen, and it serves you well. I mean, look, in both those books, Scavenger and now Standalone, as I said, man, I think Dickie just really comes through. Obviously, well, you're telling the story from his point of view, but still, you are drawn into that world. You really do understand, how he sees things. It's, now, obviously, how he sees things sometimes is not quite clear, but that's okay.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, and if look at the history of our genre. I mean, I was talking to Angeli Babar about this, and she runs the Dashiell Hammett Society. It's like that's not just the essence of noir. That's the essence of like detective fiction and crime fiction is putting yourself into that person's mind's eye and seeing, they can be flawed. You can pile on the flaws all you want, but the key is to put the reader in that mind's eye. And sometimes the reader will go, well, why is she going through that door?
Yes.
Because that's how they're programmed, or that's what they, it's, yes, we're God, and yes, we're creating these stories, but you kind of want to see what this person does. I mean,
exactly.
And you get a real, really good at seeing that when you write like the first one in second person, because now you've got an invisible character and your main antagonist, and you don't know which one is reliable.
Dig it.
So it kind of trains you to create that, because I don't want somebody who's so messed up and so flawed that it's almost like you're making this person a moron or creepy or crazy on purpose. And that's what I want to do. I want to show somebody who's realistic but can match wits with anybody. And he fancies himself a gumshoe. He's an amateur.
Yep.
And as we know, Gary, I mean, most gumshoes, like most cops, when they solve something, a lot of it is just dogged determination that turns up dumbass luck.
That's
it.
That's right.
It's not, these people are not Sherlock Holmes.
They're not, or Hercule Poirot. That's right. That's right.
It is just sticking on it until you get dumbass lucky, and now you see the full picture.
Now you see the full picture. If I talk to enough people, if I go enough places, I see enough things. That's right.
Shaking enough trees, something's gonna fall on my head.
Something's gonna fall. That's right.
Yeah.
Eventually, that's right. These dots will start to connect. That's right. But you got to stick at it. That's right. That's true, baby. All right. So look, I think Peter's lurking out there, but I think you said you had a second passage that you wanted to read.
Yeah,
so
it's a short one.
Sounds like an appropriate time to get to that.
Yeah. It's a short one, and I want to, because I want people to see how, he's now doing first person noir, and this is only a short passage, and he's dealing directly with some cops.
Right on.
My head drops rather than watch that van rumble off into the polluted night, that girl digesting in its innards. So the dick's getting right up in my face, and the big jarhead's making sure I don't look away as I'm feeling his big freckled hand grip my occipital skull. Look, I ain't buying this gentle giant sling bait bullshit, you feel me? See, I know exactly who you are. Yeah, last year or thereabouts, Homicide got a tip you were good for the murder of two old folks up in Parkview, Georgia Avenue Towers. They were going to pinch you while you were in the D1 lockup, ready for a transfer on some federal felony rap. Ring a bell? Assaulting 4 park police officers trying to clean out a homeless camp? around the Smithsonian. The two old folks were my friends, Fred and Eva. And those cops were thugs messing with my people. Messing with your people, huh? Word around the campfire is some K Street lawyer sprung you. Nobody knows why. That's incorrect. No, that's trouble. Your trouble. But you ain't going to cause any more when your ass is in a cell at the CDF. Got nooks and crannies in there they still haven't washed the COVID out of. You feel me? He won't check my eyes like a man. You really putting a case on me? Yeah, obstruction, disrupting a crime scene, suicide scene. Hey, you said you were kidnapped at gunpoint to this hole, thus a crime scene. You're gaslighting me, man. Huh? Hard to get used to, my affliction. Film starring Charles Boyer, Ingrid Bergman, based on a play. Psychological and political term meaning his phone started blowing up. He don't care what I know. Meanwhile, the white boy Jake's releasing my sore head. He's dying to ask me something as the dick moves farther away for privacy, and he's more animated in the conversation. The cop tells me, I don't care why you were here fucking around, but you open your mouth, I'll put a Glock in it. We clear? So, I mean, you know, he's gone from the police being people that like pick him up off the street and drop him off at the shelter to actively fucking with him.
Right.
So that's why I said the whack-a-mole. He's now visible, and now, you know, that's not necessarily a good thing. The police in the first book were almost good people. You know, they were almost saviors.
Yeah.
In this book, they are not.
Well, and it's also because, as we've said, you know, Dickie has transformed. So, right, which is kind of the ironic point you're making there, which is to say, now that you've picked yourself up, now that you've kind of, you know, try to get to be, you know, a square John, as it were, right? To you know, to work the case, to put yourself into your job, to take pride in your work. Oh, now that you're going to start to fuck with the stuff that we're doing, right? Because you do take pride in your work, therefore now you're a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. You got it. I mean,
go.
that's a nutshell right there. Hopefully they'll buy the book. You know.
There you go. That's it. That'll teach them.
Buy that book. That's what I say. Buy the book.
Buy that book. That's it.
You've got the. I couldn't be more honored to have you two. You know, go into this. You know, the work that we published, and that was our 99th book, Standalone. And we just hit 100.
That's right. I saw that. Congratulations, Peter. That's wonderful. You and Kat, man. That's terrific.
That's us, and we're gonna, you know, continue to do this. Put books in the world that people can belong to. You know,
right
because
on.
there's so little to belong to out in the world.
You go, baby.
But so honored to have Gary Phillips and Christopher Chambers here with us this evening to discuss Standalone, to discuss the genre. To discuss the intricacies and nuances of creating another world. You know, and it just, as I say, I'm honored.
You know, I'll just jump in real quickly and say, it does really speak, I think, you know, as Chris alluded to a little earlier, that the mystery genre, because now of different voices and ethnicities and women, men and women, and those in between, or those who are not binary, whatever it is right now, but who are working, you know, the fields of this thing of ours, helps it to be fresh and helps it to constantly renew. And it really, and it's just it's such a great time, I really think, you know, to be involved in the genre.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, because when I started out with my Random House hardcovers, I mean, it was Eleanor Taylor Bland, it was Grace Edwards, it was Gary and Gar and Hugh Holton, and you know, and even then, Walter wasn't like a superstar. He was
right.
There wasn't anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, and now, you know, you have women of color, and particularly, have just turned the genre on its ear.
Yeah, exactly.
You got brothers like Sean Cosby and John Vircher who were like creating their own literature. Really,
dig it.
It is you know, you've gone from Mickey Spillane
Yeah.
I'm not going to degrade Nicky Spillane, even though
exactly, right.
That's the past. That's
right.
That's who we descend from.
Exactly right.
To this, I mean, and this is like a golden age.
Yeah, it really is.
That inspires, you know, as an older person, that inspires me to kind of to experiment and spread my wings, and that's exactly what I wanted to do with these two books. I could have gone very traditional, mystery, and done respectably, but I wanted to stretch my wings, and thank God for Peter and Kat to allow me to do that.
Right on, man. Right on.
Add to the genre.
Yeah, exactly.
Spread your wings and fly away. What was that? Terrible song from there. It was an awful song, man. I don't even remember who it was, but I can hear it. Spread these tiny wings and fly.
Oh yeah. It's an old 70s pop song.
Well, I'm glad you found that freedom. You know, you were doing it yourself. I'm glad that we have, you know, had the opportunity to be a part of that through you and in our publishing wings too. You know, it's a two-way street there, and it's a three-way street for the audience, you know, as well, for the reader. So it's a, you know, it's a triumvirate there, and we're doing it, and we're changing the world, you know, book by book.
There you go.
And that's what we're all going to do. And Gary's got a great book out right now that I read, One Shot Harry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Great book.
Really love that book.
Thank you, folks.
And these two here that you see, Gary and Chris, are also in a new anthology, Witnesses for the Dead.
The Guard I co-edited. Yeah,
you and Gar, right? Co-edited.
There are a lot of writers of color in that.
That's right. And Chris has got a great story in that called Envy. Yeah.
Envy. Yeah. I'm trying my Hitchcockian side.
There you go.
There you go. But that was a pleasure too. I mean, and that was it shows you, you know, that we're not in competition. You know, I mean, if it is, it's kind of like a friendly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, you know, Nicky Lauda and that other guy trying to race each other in that race car movie. It's more, you know, everybody trying to get through and putting the best product out.
There you go. That's it.
And you know, that's what I'm trying to do with this. And you know, and it makes me happy when I see people who are not of the world of Dickie Cornish actually trying hard to get through the slang.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because now, you know, in first person, he is speaking in slang mostly. And so, you know, I see people like saying, well, you know, for the first book, it was tough, but I see people now going, you know, I want to try to understand this. What he's saying is important.
Right.
You know, I mean, not just for the plot, but it's important, you know, stuff to try to parse through. And that really warms me up.
Right on. Excellent.
There it is, Standalone.
Buy it.
That's right. Buy it. Exactly.
You had a couple of friends say hello, Chris. Musa said hi, Professor Chris.
Yeah.
And somebody else said Petey. Petey says hello. So
cool.
There you go.
They were there on the.
All right.
On the.
Well, I mean, one is in Somalia. The other's in Florida.
Huh.
And sometimes I can't tell the difference between Somalia and Florida, but thanks to DeSantis. But you know, our own warlord.
Yeah,
that's it.
He's a warlord, but you know, every dog has his day, and
I hope he buys it. I hope he buys the book. I mean, I think he could learn a lot.
It's he got that. He's gonna have that big. He's gonna have that big woke bonfire. Burn all them books.
Believe it or not, I have a lot of conservative fans, and I think it's because they like to see the underbelly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the underbelly's there. I mean, you're not making a political statement. There's an underbelly, and I think they like to see that. I think the problem is you got to go below what's creating that.
Dig it.
But I think that they, you know, they dig it too, and they like the characters, and so I'm like, look, as long as they're buying a book, I am so happy. You know, if you want me to come to a MAGA rally and sell some books, that
would be a hoot.
We could make some money there, and then I'll sneak away.
That's it.
We should have put a little hat on him.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a red hat.
Red hat.
Just-
Red Hat Cornish. That's it.
Yeah.
Gary, thank you so much for joining us.
It was great. It was always a pleasure.
It really
Great.
was. I'm so moved by your camaraderie and as I said, honored to be a part of it, to share that.
Well, I'm honored
with
to
both
you
of
all. This
you.
is great. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
And I look forward to talking with you here soon as we move forward with the Unvarnished.
Right on.
So,
There you go.
All right. Buy the
All right,
book,
man.
Stand Alone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for
guys.
Get that book,
reading the
y'all.
passages, and thanks for digging into Dickie Cornish. And
Makes a great gift.
That's
yeah,
right. Makes a great gift.
Great
Just in
gift.
time for Christmas, y'all. That's right.
All right.
All right, you
So
cats.
I'm gonna end the broadcast, but you guys can stay on for a minute.